Girl acts nervous around dad. In waiting area, doctor takes X-ray and calls 911 immediately. In a quiet, unassuming clinic just 15 miles from the US-Mexico border, an ordinary evening took a chilling turn when a young girl's nervous behavior caught the attention of everyone around her. She sat hunched over in the waiting area, avoiding eye contact, while her father hovered close, his darting eyes betraying something far more sinister than concern. It was one of those moments that doctors like Dr. Rafael Mendez dread but are trained to recognize. A moment where instincts scream louder than words. What started as a routine checkup quickly spiraled into a life-or-death situation after. An X-ray revealed shocking secrets hidden inside the girl's body. This discovery forced Dr. Rafael to make a call that would change not only their lives, but also expose a dark underworld operating right under society's nose. Dr. Rafael Mendez had spent 12 years working at El Camino Community Health Clinic, a modest facility nestled in a dusty town known for its high migrant traffic and transient population. The clinic wasn't glamorous. Its faded beige walls and outdated posters spoke volumes about the struggles it faced daily, but it stood as a beacon of hope for many who had nowhere else to turn. On this particular night, the air conditioning buzzed weakly against the desert heat, casting a humdrum rhythm over what seemed like another slow shift. That is, until Lucia walked in with the man claiming to be her father. From the moment they entered, there was an uneasy energy surrounding them. Lucia's defensive posture, the way she clutched her stomach, and the sharp glances exchanged between her and the man beside her set off alarm bells for anyone paying attention. And Dr. Rafael, he always paid attention. As the story unfolds, we meet Nurse Carla Stowe, a seasoned assistant whose efficiency and observational skills made her invaluable in such a resource-strapped environment. When she first approached Lucia to take her vitals, even she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. There was no ID, no explanation for the girl's obvious pain, and a palpable tension between the pair. Yet despite these red flags, both Dr. Rafael and Nurse Carla knew they couldn't turn away someone in need. Not here. Not in this place where desperate people often came seeking help. Little did they know, saying yes to treating Lucia would plunge them into a nightmare involving drug cartels, human exploitation, and moral dilemmas that tested the limits of their humanity. The turning point came during Lucia's examination. Her symptoms pointed to something beyond a simple stomach bug. Abdominal rigidity, shallow breathing, and signs of severe dehydration. Concerned, Dr. Rafael ordered an X-ray, hoping to rule out any serious conditions. But what appeared on the screen left him stunned and terrified. Dozens of oval-shaped pellets lined Lucia's gastrointestinal tract, evidence that she was being used as a drug mule. One pellet appeared to be leaking, putting her life in immediate danger. In that instant, everything changed. Dr. Rafael realized he wasn't dealing with a typical medical emergency. This was a criminal operation disguised as a family visit. With trembling hands, he picked up the phone and dialed 911, knowing full well the risks involved in exposing such a dangerous truth. But calling for help was only the beginning. As law enforcement prepared to respond, Miguel, the man posing as Lucia's father, became increasingly agitated. His nervous pacing, whispered phone calls, and relentless grip on Lucia's wrist painted a picture of someone desperate to maintain control. When the police failed to arrive before Miguel decided to flee, chaos erupted, dragging Lucia toward the exit. He ignored cries from the staff and patients alike, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. Would Lucia survive whatever awaited? her outside the safety of the clinic? Or was she already doomed by forces far greater than anyone could comprehend? What followed next was a race against time, not just for Lucia's life, but for justice itself. Dr. Raphael refused to let the case go cold, driven by a mix of guilt, anger, and determination to protect the vulnerable. Hours later, fate brought him face to face with Miguel again, this time under circumstances neither could have predicted. Bound by fear and desperation, the two men found themselves entangled in a web of violence, betrayal, and impossible choices. For Miguel, every decision carried the weight of his past sins, while for Dr. Raphael, each move tested his commitment to the Hippocratic Oath. Together, they navigated a shadowy world of illegal surgeries, organ trafficking, and unimaginable cruelty, all while trying to save a child who deserved better than the hand she'd been dealt. At its core, this story isn't just about crime or medicine. It's about resilience, sacrifice, and the lengths people will go to protect those they love. It's about Dr. Raphael, who risked everything to honor his duty as a healer, and Miguel, whose actions revealed a heartbreaking duality of villainy and paternal devotion. Most importantly, it's about Lucia, a symbol of innocence, thrust into darkness, clinging to the faintest glimmer of hope. As the pieces of this harrowing puzzle come together, viewers will find themselves asking, how far would you go to save a life? And what price are you willing to pay for redemption? Yet, as gripping as these revelations may be, the story remains unresolved. While Lucia lies recovering in the hospital, surrounded by police guards and medical staff, questions linger. Who were the masked figures performing surgeries in that makeshift clinic? Will the authorities dismantle the cartel network responsible for exploiting children like Lucia? And perhaps most hauntingly, what happens now to a girl who has lost everything except the fragile promise of a new beginning? These uncertainties hang heavy in the air, leaving audiences eager to uncover the answers in the next chapter of this unforgettable tale. Stay tuned, because the journey is far from over. As the story unfolds, it becomes clear that Miguel Alvarez is not just a father, but also a man trapped in a web of crime and desperation. His nervous demeanor in the clinic wasn't just about protecting Lucia. It was about survival. Growing up in a family tied to drug trafficking, Miguel had never known another way of life. The cartel wasn't just his employer. It was his identity, his legacy, and ultimately his prison. But beneath the hardened exterior lay a man who loved his daughter more than anything else in this world. Every time he looked at Lucia, he saw her mother, whose death years ago left an unfillable void in both their lives. For Miguel, Lucia wasn't just a mule or a tool for smuggling. She was his last connection to hope, to innocence, to something pure in a life tainted by darkness. The deeper Dr. Raphael delved into Lucia's case, the more he realized how widespread and insidious the exploitation was. It wasn't just Lucia being used as a courier. Countless children were forced into similar roles because they attracted less attention from border authorities. These kids weren't seen as threats. They were seen as disposable. And yet, what struck him most was the duality of Miguel's actions. On one hand, Miguel had subjected Lucia to unimaginable danger, placing her fragile body at the mercy of ruthless criminals. On the other hand, every protective gesture, every whispered reassurance during their escape attempt, hinted at a man torn between loyalty to the cartel and love for his child. This internal conflict made Miguel unpredictable, dangerous even, but also deeply human. Meanwhile, Lucia's condition worsened with each passing hour. The leaking drug pellet inside her triggered waves of pain and dizziness, leaving her pale and barely responsive. Despite the urgency of her situation, she remained silent, too afraid to speak up against the man controlling her fate. Her silence spoke volumes, a testament to the fear instilled in her over months, maybe years, of living under the shadow of violence. As Dr. Raphael worked tirelessly to stabilize her, he couldn't help but wonder about the psychological scars she carried. How could someone so young endure such trauma? Would she ever trust anyone again after everything she'd been through? Back at the makeshift clinic where they were taken, the stakes grew higher. The surgical team moved with cold precision, removing the remaining pellets from Lucia's system while preparing to implant them into another victim. The terrified boy, brought in as part of the operation, Dr. Raphael watched in horror as the surgeon explained casually how these procedures were routine for them, almost like factory work. Deconstruct, the term echoed in his mind, sending chills down his spine. He now understood why Miguel seemed so desperate to get Lucia out of there. If she survived the surgery, she wouldn't be safe for long. The cartel had no use for failed couriers, and organ harvesting ensured nothing went to waste. Amidst the chaos, Miguel's quiet act of rebellion became the turning point. When he slipped Dr. Raphael the key, loosened the restraints, and whispered instructions on escaping, it was more than just assistance. It was redemption. For Miguel, this wasn't about saving himself. It was about giving Lucia a chance at freedom, even if it meant sacrificing his own life. His decision to stage a self-inflicted gunshot wound was calculated, painful, but necessary. In that moment, he chose to defy the very system that had defined him, knowing full well the consequences he would face once the police arrived. Tension reached its peak as Dr. Raphael navigated the dimly lit corridors, his heart pounding in sync with the distant shouts of the armed men. Every step felt heavier than the last, every creak of the floorboards a potential giveaway. Time was running out, not just for Lucia, but for everyone involved. The sound of gunfire erupted somewhere deeper within the building, followed by the blaring sirens of approaching police cars. Dr. Raphael knew he had only minutes before the entire facility descended into pandemonium. Reaching room 15, he unlocked the door and found Lucia lying weak but alive. She stirred slightly as he entered, her eyes widening in recognition. "It's okay," he whispered, dialing 911 with trembling fingers. "Help is coming." Outside, the scene unfolded like something out of a movie. Tactical teams stormed the building, weapons drawn, shouting orders as masked figures scrambled to flee. Some were caught immediately. Others managed to slip away into the night. Inside, Dr. Raphael barricaded himself with Lucia, shielding her frail body with his own, as footsteps thundered closer. When the door finally burst open, adrenaline surged through him. He wasn't sure whether the figure standing there was friend or foe. The standoff lasted mere seconds, but it felt like an eternity. Then came the words that signaled salvation. "Dr. Mendez, this is the police. We're here to help." As paramedics rushed Lucia to a waiting ambulance, Dr. Raphael took stock of the devastation around him. Masked faces were revealed, identities exposed, and handcuffs clicked shut. Among them was Miguel, bleeding but alive, his gaze meeting Raphael's with a mixture of gratitude and resignation. The cartel's operation had been dismantled, at least partially, but the cost was staggering. Lives had been shattered, innocence lost, and futures forever altered. Yet amidst the wreckage, a glimmer of hope remained. Lucia was safe, and Dr. Raphael vowed to honor Miguel's sacrifice by ensuring she received the care and protection she deserved. With the immediate crisis resolved, new questions emerged. What would happen to Lucia now? Could she recover from the physical and emotional scars inflicted upon her? And what of Miguel, whose final act of courage might redeem him in ways neither he nor anyone else expected? As Dr. Raphael stood outside the hospital later that night, watching Lucia sleep through the window of her ICU room, he realized this ordeal was far from over. The road ahead would be fraught with challenges, legal battles, and healing wounds. But for the first time in hours, he allowed himself to breathe. They had won a battle tonight, but the war against exploitation and injustice continued. And for Lucia, for Miguel, and for all those still trapped in the shadows, Dr. Raphael knew he couldn't give up. Not now, not ever. As the days turned into weeks, Lucia began to heal both physically and emotionally. The hospital staff worked tirelessly to monitor her recovery, ensuring that no trace of the drugs remained in her system. Dr. Raphael visited her daily, bringing small gifts, a coloring book, a stuffed animal, anything to brighten her room and remind her that she was safe now. Slowly but surely, Lucia started opening up, sharing fragments of her life before the cartel took control. She spoke about her mother, who had died when she was very young, and how Miguel would often sit by the window at night, staring out as if searching for something he could never find. It became clear that Lucia's world had been shaped by loss, long before the horrors of drug smuggling entered her life. Meanwhile, the investigation into the Alonso cartel intensified. Detective Sandoval kept Dr. Raphael updated on the progress, explaining how the raid on the makeshift clinic had unraveled an entire network of illegal operations. Documents recovered from the facility revealed names, locations, and plans detailing future shipments. The authorities discovered 2 more warehouses filled with drug pellets, along with evidence of human trafficking and organ harvesting. What shocked everyone most was the sheer scale of exploitation. Children like Lucia were not exceptions, but part of a systematic process designed to evade detection. For every child saved, there were countless others still trapped in the shadows. Back at the hospital, Lucia's case drew national attention. Journalists wrote stories about her rescue, highlighting the bravery of Dr. Raphael and the grim reality faced by migrants near the border. While some criticized him for risking his life, many hailed him as a hero. But Dr. Raphael didn't see himself that way. To him, this wasn't about accolades or recognition. It was about doing what was right, even when it felt impossible. He spent hours filling out paperwork, testifying in court, and working with social services to secure a stable future for Lucia. Eventually, after months of legal proceedings, he was granted temporary guardianship of the girl, a decision that brought tears to his eyes. Miguel's fate remained uncertain. Though he survived the gunshot wound, his involvement with the cartel meant he faced severe charges. However, during one of the hearings, Dr. Raphael took the stand to speak on Miguel's behalf. He recounted how Miguel had risked everything to save Lucia, describing the man not just as a criminal, but as someone capable of profound love and sacrifice. The courtroom fell silent as he spoke, and while Miguel's sentence wasn't overturned, it was reduced significantly. When the verdict came down, Miguel looked directly at Dr. Raphael and mouthed the words, "Thank you," once more. It was a moment of closure, however bittersweet. The final chapter of this story unfolded quietly, yet powerfully. Dr. Raphael moved Lucia into his modest home, transforming the spare bedroom into a space filled with light and warmth. School enrollment forms, new clothes, and bedtime stories became part of their daily routine. Lucia struggled at first, waking up in the middle of the night drenched in sweat, haunted by nightmares. But over time, she began to smile more, laugh more, and trust again. Her resilience amazed everyone around her, especially Dr. Raphael, who found himself learning as much from her as she did from him. One evening, as they sat together watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink, Lucia turned to Dr. Raphael and asked, "Do you think my dad is okay?" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Your dad made a choice," he said gently. "He chose to protect you, even if it meant losing everything else. That kind of love doesn't disappear. It stays with you forever." Lucia nodded thoughtfully, clutching the stuffed bear he'd given her. After a moment, she whispered, "I miss him." Dr. Raphael wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. "I know," he replied, "and it's okay to miss him. But remember, Lucia, you're not alone anymore. You have me, and we'll build a new life together. One where you can dream big and be whoever you want to be." In the end, this story wasn't just about survival. It was about transformation. Lucia went from being a victim of unimaginable cruelty to a symbol of hope and renewal. Dr. Raphael, too, emerged changed. He had always believed in the power of medicine to heal, but now he understood its role in restoring dignity and humanity. Together, they proved that even in the darkest corners of the world, acts of courage and compassion could ignite change. Years later, Lucia grew into a confident young woman, excelling in school and determined to become a doctor herself. She often told people the story of the man who saved her life, not because she wanted pity, but because she wanted others to know that kindness exists, even in the hardest places. And Dr. Raphael, he continued his work at El Camino Community Health Clinic, treating patients with the same unwavering dedication. Every time he saw Lucia walk through the doors to visit him, he was reminded of why he chose this path in the first place: to make a difference, one patient at a time. This tale leaves us with a powerful message, that even amidst despair, there is always room for redemption, for connection, and for hope. It reminds us to look beyond appearances, to listen closely to those who suffer silently, and to act with empathy when it matters most. Because sometimes, saving one life can ripple outward, touching countless others in ways we may never fully understand.